and welcome to Look Down There, the show where we talk about all the things we don't talk about. I'm your host, Michelle Lamore. Today, my guest has been working as an international performance artist since 2004. She is the creator of Year in Rainbow and the Untitled Rainbow Project. She produces shows that New York Times calls shockingly explicit. And the Village Voice has coined her the mastermind of bizarre extravaganza. Please welcome my guest all the way from New York City, Darlinda Just Darlinda. Hi.
Hi, Michelle. It's so good to see you.
So good to see you in all your beautiful colors representing the rainbow, of course. I
Yes.
expect nothing less from you.
Just
Keeping,
get it's
yeah, you're keeping the pandemic lively, right?
Yes, absolutely. Trying to keep it colorful because
Yes.
isolation is no fun.
No, but we're doing the best we can. And
Yes.
yeah. So you're here because you have a really special trick that I want to talk about, but we'll get to that later. Let's first talk about how you got to be Darlinda Just Darlinda.
Yeah. So I started doing burlesque and performance art because I was working, I was actually going to college and studying direction at Cal State University, Monterey Bay. And I had directed Hedwig and the Angry Inch and the Vagina Monologues. So I've been working within sort of sexuality. And I also worked a lot as a comedy sketch improv performer as well. So I was doing comedy and these sort of like sexuality themed productions. And a friend of mine had gone to Teaserama, I think it was 2003. I believe, was it in LA?
Yeah, that was the first one I went to, 2003 at the Henry Fonda Theater. Yeah, that was my
Amazing.
first time actually seeing burlesque, like on a on a grand scale. I'd been doing burlesque for a few months before that, but this was my first time seeing legends like Satan's Angel, and I didn't know. I couldn't take it all in. It was too much.
That's amazing. I think you're the first person I've talked to that about that who was actually there. So I didn't go. My roommate and best friend at the time, she went, and she came back and she told me about it. And I think Dita did
Did
her
a bathtub, yeah.
her
And like Marilyn Manson was in the front row. And
wow,
I was like on the side stage watching their interactions.
amazing. You performed as well in that show.
Yeah, I performed. I had a group at the time called Lavender Cabaret, and we had a 15-minute slot, and it was me and three other girls, I think, and we performed 7 numbers back to back with costume changes in 15 minutes. And within that, I did one striptease. But my pasties were huge. They were huge. So I wasn't even bare butt at the time. So as
Yeah.
someone who's now known as the most naked woman, I was pretty covered up at my first teaser-rama. And I'll tell you a really quick story before you continue, but Satan's Angel went on right before us. Okay. And so for those of you who don't know, Satan's Angel was the broad of all broads, right? Just like brassy, smoky, just lived a life, And she's out there whirling dervish style to Santana. And she comes off the stage, and I'm standing there, kind of freaked out. She comes off the stage and she goes, "Yeah, good luck following that." And I was like, "Oh my God."
That's amazing.
Yes.
Sounds just like her. It sounds just like her.
Yeah.
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 Continue.
I mean, I have just shivers. Like when you said that you were there and you performed, it's amazing. So I never saw that show, obviously. My roommate did. She came back. She told me about it. Just told me about it. And I decided that I was going to do burlesque. I said, I was always always the person that got naked at parties. I grew up in a very hippie community where we would like take hot tubs together. Nudity was a big part of growing up for me, but so there wasn't a lot of shame around it. So when I came to college, I guess the shame kind of came in because it wasn't, I was no longer in this really, this bubble of this hippie community where I grew up. So, so she told me about it. I said I was going to do it. The first time I did burlesque was at my friend's 21st birthday. They had planned to go to Vegas, and her and some of our other friends, and me and my one friend, Laura, we couldn't go. So we were like, oh, let's jump out of a cake. Somehow we knew that was a thing that strippers did, right? And so, but we were kids. We didn't have that ability to create a cake. So we just found some men's clothes at the local thrift store and just stripped down to our, underwear and bras. And that was the first time I ever performed, was at this house party for my friend. And then as my going away party, I was planning to move to New York. I was going to focus on theater direction because that's what I got my degree in. And I said, well, I'm throwing a burlesque party. And so I did like 2 or 3 numbers in the living room for my friends, and other people did. And people would ask me, well, what's burlesque? And I just said, well, I don't know. I mean, just wear underwear or something. Like, do a striptease. I had no idea what I was doing because I'm not a huge person. I don't do a lot of research. I just sort of do the thing. If I want to do it, I just do it, which has been helpful and harmful for me in the past. It has mixed results, but it does, I'm still here. So it works somehow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I that was kind of the same thing for me. I started, my first show was in 2002. My first striptease was in 2003, actually. Oh, wait. No, 2001, 2002. I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. No, 2002, 2003, doesn't matter. But I hadn't even heard of burlesque before. It was just like, oh, I've just been getting naked in my bedroom for a while to music, and this seems to make sense. So yeah, I didn't do a lot of research, and for that I'm kind of grateful because I got to develop my own style in this little bubble. And then of course, after I got some years in, or a year at least, I began to open up and see and research and, get to know all the legends and all that kind of stuff. So there is some benefit to creating in your own bubble.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it's sort of like children who didn't grow up with television, and so, they end up doing these incredible things because they don't feel they're not limited by this one form of media, literally in a small box, Which,
now it's just a different time. It's a different time. We sound like legends now, Darlinda. With the internet all the time, there's so much information out there. So, I can't imagine starting up right now.
No.
To all of you who are starting up burlesque during a pandemic, because I know some of you have, and wow, that's amazing. Congratulations. Yeah. Well,
the cool thing is, I think about making burlesque on video is that there is, it's not as risky because you can, especially if you're doing a pre-recorded performance, you can stop and, edit it and make it what you want it to be, so there is some, some sense of, there's some benefit to it, I think,
Yeah. Okay. So you have this class that you teach called, I don't know if I'm going to get the title right, but How to Put Things in Your Pussy. Is that right?
Well, sort of, yeah. It's called Performance Art Burlesque, aka What Did She Just Pull Out of Her Pussy?
Okay, great. So on that note, what was the first thing that you pulled out of your pussy
The,
in a performance setting?
in a performance setting, yes. I mean, it's something that I had never done before, and I can't even. It might have actually been inspired by Julie Alice Muse. She did a performance piece called, I might get this wrong. Maybe she spoke about it when you interviewed her.
Is
But
it I am the moon and you are the man on me,
man.
or
That's
something
right.
like
Yeah,
that?
I'm the moon and you are the man on me. And
Yeah.
in the very end, she actually makes it look like she's pulling it out of her ass, but she pulls an American flag out of her ass. But I'm pretty sure she pulled it out of her pussy. But I could be wrong. But my thought is that she did. She pulled it out of her pussy, and then she put it. I think she made it look like the flag had been in her butt, like she put it in her butt, like it was flying. I think. Did you see that show too,
I
or
didn't
she
see
told you
it, but
about it?
I saw just that moment. I think there was a promo or something on her site where she kind of like flexed so it looked like the flag was waving.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that was the first person I've ever seen do a pussy trick. But then there's also Remy Vicious in Coney Island who put a lollipop in her pussy. So I had seen some people do pussy tricks on stage. But the first thing that I pulled out of my pussy was flowers. Was a garland of flowers, and I had, what was that party called? And now it's out of my head. Linda Simpson is a legendary drag queen in New York, and she used to throw this party. Maybe it was called like Wet or Snatch, or it had some very sensual, like sensual title. Oh man, I wish I could remember what it was right now. Anyways, at this party, it was at a venue called The Cock, which is a gay bar in New York City. And Linda invited me to perform, and I did this with springtime, right? So I did a very, like, I think I had all these flower petals that I like pulled off my bits, and then I pulled flowers out of, like, a garland of flowers out of my pussy. And that was the first thing, and probably the most difficult thing that I've ever pulled out of my pussy, because, it's not like easy, hard, and it just goes right in. It's weird and lumpy and floral, and
Yeah.
they're plastic flowers. So
Right. Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I have never pulled anything out of my pussy on stage. Um, so how do you train for something like this? Because I
Well,
imagine that you need really good muscle control.
yes, you do. So I was also at the time working at a sex shop, a feminist sex shop called Babeland, which was all about education. So I had all this information on how to take care of your vagina, really, and so I knew about the different kinds of condoms you could use and lube and all this stuff, and I just knew about the anatomy of the vagina and the vulva, right? So it's like any other muscle. So you have to warm it up and you have to prepare it for things to go in it. It's sort of like when you're having sex, you're not going to just like stick it in. You have foreplay and you have to warm it up. Just like if you're going to get on stage and do a dance, you have to warm up. So,
But that's what they do in the movies, Darlinda. They just go right in and then it's perfect.
right.
Is that not true? Is that
That's not true. You and I both know. Basically, like porn stars are, warming themselves up in advance, I should hope.
Yeah, you got to do your plies and your tendus.
Yeah. So it's all about warming up. I have learned a lot over the years. Like I said earlier, I'm not such a big researcher. I learned a few things about what to do and what not to do. And what the biggest one was warming up. And I learned actually from Julie. She just said, well, I try to jerk off before I do it. And you know, like at some point in the day before, like before you get to the venue, you know, and I thought, oh, what a great idea. And it did help so much because you're literally anatomically relaxing all the muscles there, and your body, you know, anyone who has a vagina and an anus, if you're not emotionally and physically ready to have something inside of you, it doesn't work. I mean, I remember one time I was having a one night stand, and for some reason my pussy was like, you're not putting that in there. There's nothing wrong with the person, but it was like, nothing is going in. Nothing. It just was like, no, no.
You're blocking yourself.
Yeah. So unfortunately, that also happens when you're performing. And so there's a venue at the Box, called the Box in New York, where they really specialize in this sort of shock value performance art. And the cool thing about it as a working artist is that you work 5 nights a week. So you get booked for a whole week, and so you do it 5 nights a week. Well, I think all but one number I do at the Box involves pussy tricks. So that means I have to really prepare my vagina for pussy tricks. And, you know, it's been hard. It was like a hard learning lesson. And thankfully, Julie told me about the jerking off. I also won a yoni egg at the New York Burlesque Festival, and I won a yoni egg is it's an egg-shaped piece of rose quartz. I think they make them in other types of stones, but rose quartz is very healing. But there's one number where I pull 50 feet of magic silk out of my pussy, and it's pretty large. You know, maybe it's kind of the size of 1 or 2 fists. So it's
wow.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's
no sleight of pussy here. It's all real.
It's real. Yeah. And so that takes so much work. And that is fortunately they stopped booking it as much. Like, because it was hard. It was hard. It was hard.
Yeah, was that multiple times a night too, or just
only once a night? Okay. Only once a night. Yeah. But so that was, there's that number. And then sometimes I would get booked to do 2 numbers. And so I would do that number first, and then another number in the late night set. We're talking, 3 in the morning. That's when the set was. I mean, one of the things I'm so grateful about the pandemic is that I don't have to stay up so late anymore.
Oh yeah, I am not keeping any showgirl hours right now. I am in bed usually by midnight, which is strange. It's strange for me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. But yeah, those are some of the things I learned, and then also just what kinds of things you don't want to put in there. One time I didn't have a condom, so I had been pulling this sort of knitted crochet rainbow out of my pussy, and maybe I was on my period, and I think I was on my period, and it was this crazy day where we got locked out of our car. We were in Seattle, and the person who produced the show forgot that it was me in Little Brooklyn. We were on tour, and he forgot that we were booked for the show. And it was my birthday. So of course I remember, I was like, I know it's my birthday. I know that this is a date, and I had the email. And so we showed up late, and I didn't have a condom, and I had a tampon in. So I was like, oh, I'll just push it all in. Well, I gave myself rope burn with that. It was,
oh man.
It was, if anyone is trying pussy tricks, use a condom. Always use a condom, because
you want to use the condom to put the stuff in, so it's not actually touching the skin, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
You have that's the biggest trick, is use a condom.
Mm-hmm. So what would you recommend someone start with if they wanted to try something like this?
something more like phallic shaped, like a lipstick or something. you
Yeah, just make
know,
sure that lid doesn't pop off.
I know. Yeah. So you think about where it's going to stay. But the cool thing about a condom is that, um, make sure that the condom is kind of dangling out of you a bit, so that if something does get stuck, you can just pull the condom out, and then you're not. Um,
Does it ever just all come out? Like you pull the wrong thing and it's just like a
yes.
wad of
Yes.
what is happening? Yeah.
That's definitely happened. And I actually, so my drag mom is Rose Wood, who's a performance artist. And she's trans, so she has breasts, but she also has a penis. So she does all kinds of stuff with her butt, and she also was a magician as a child. So there are a lot of, actually, you say no sleight of hands, but there are a lot of sleight of hands things that you can do with pussy tricks. And for example, if the condom does fall out, you kind of just like hold it in your hand, or you kind of like, flick it behind you. It's a lot of stuff we use for burlesque, and like, the teasing that you're like, oh, you didn't see that, or, like, I'm just, oh, a feather, I'm just going to put it on my nipple because my pasty fell off, or whatever. You kind of, you learn to improvise when things don't go exactly as planned. And
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
It is the beauty of live performance. Remember that? Remember those days?
Oh, yeah. Barely somehow.
Yeah. It's all pretty foreign to me right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the first time you did it, how did the audience react? I mean, I'm presuming that you did it in New York, and New York's pretty, open to
Yes.
lots of stuff. Was there any sort of surprise, or how did you feel that first time you did it? Were you like, oh, this is for me, this is what I'm doing from now
Yeah.
on?
It was fun. It's nerve wracking. I think pussy tricks, because things can fall out if you don't go right on time, and you have like the right, you have to, it's not like I always wait till the very last minute to put something inside me before I go, because sometimes, if it's not the right day, it can fall out. It's just like, it gets strong. Like, as much Kegel as I do, sometimes it'll fall out, or too early. So I have to like go on right away. And so the first time was at the Cock. So it was a gay bar, which was, I think it was one of those things where everyone was sort of drunk, and, it wasn't like a theatrical setting where, a hush ran over the crowd. It wasn't like this, like, oh my, there was none of that, which I have experienced that in other pussy tricks that I've done, because of where I was, doing. I did a tribute to Rose LaRose at Beehoff in 2016, and she was known for keeping a G-string in her pussy, so that when the Vice Squad came and saw that she was naked, she would take it out and put her G-string on. So I incorporated that into my act, and I had Chris Harder and Ben Franklin be, cops, and their little both of them, or I can't remember if it was Chris or Ben, both of them had, kind of rent a cop uniforms, sort of like something like that. So it's like, will you guys fake arrest me at Beehoff? It'll be great. So that was definitely, I mean, again, Julie had done pussy tricks at Beehoff, but it was under black light. So it was her Girl from Chernobyl act. So
Yes, I actually produced that show, and she told me she was going to do this, and I was like, I don't know, because the Burlesque Hall of Fame's got a lot of rules, and there's a lot of legends in there, and it's Julie, and you're like, I don't know. There was like a hard thing to navigate, and I was like, all right, just go for it. But yeah, she pulled a glow stick out of her pussy and flung it into the audience, and I was like, well, there's a show, I may have gotten in trouble a little.
yeah, I mean, that one I think is, it's very classy, Michelle. That one was really classy. because you couldn't really, because of the black light, you couldn't see, it wasn't as fleshy, or you couldn't really see what was happening, and it was so far away, and glow sticks are very small, and but yeah, that was I think the most fun I had in terms of places. It's like we can do burlesque in the shows that we produce, and they are, we set the stage. It's a nude show or whatever we want. We set the stage for what it's going to be, and so there's no, oh, you didn't tell me you were going to do a pussy trick, or there's no shame around it, really. But then when we're at other people's shows, or there's other rules, or there's venue rules, or I always, I do have backup plans and ways to, do pussy tricks without actually doing pussy tricks, or making it look like I'm not doing one. So I do have some backup plans. So if someone is, I just don't, it's not, burlesque doesn't pay enough for me to get a venue shut down or another producer fired from a venue. There's like, right. It's just like definitely not worth it for anyone.
Yeah, it's definitely hard to navigate as a producer, kind of straddling what the venue wants and what the artist wants and what your crowd is used to, and it's different from city to city. So it's kind of a sticky situation, pun intended, I suppose. All right. So before we go, tell me a little bit more about your rainbow projects.
Yeah. So in 2007, I did a project called Year in Rainbow, and every other month I wore one color, and every other month I wore rainbow. And that was a really cool project. And each month I would do a show that had to do with the color. And then in 2018, I worked with Peekaboo Point and Tansy. We were both producing some more theatrical events. And so I did a show called Untitled Rainbow Project, which was a workshop. Both of our shows were workshops. And this was sort of using the rainbow as a storytelling device to make this show. So I had red, and I did, I basically had 6 other dancers, and we kind of created this flower out of, like, each Mr. Gorgeous made these sort of, I guess you call them collars, that were big rose petals. So each person was a petal, and they made a rose, and then it turned into a vulva, and then I was birthed out of this vulva, this human-sized vulva, which is really, Mr. Gorgeous is so talented. He's a sculptural artist, really. So that's why he does such amazing work. Mm-hmm. So, and then I also did my I've Been Loving You Too Long number as a group number. And then I did Orange, which is Orange Oracle, and I had the main attraction play this character. So this was this show that was sort of an autobiographical story, which I use other people to tell the story. Then after I did that, it was a workshop, and I thought, the story wasn't really developed as much as I wanted. So I thought, I'm going to make a one-woman show out of it, and I called it One Woman Rainbow. And so that I did at Joe's Pub in November of 2019. And that was definitely more in depth, and it wasn't exactly a one-woman show. I had a boylesque performer / modern dancer named Vixen play a character in my show, and I had Viva De Concini as an accompanist. She played guitar while I sang. But it basically was kind of a one-woman cabaret show where I had comedy and I had drama and, group interactions and kind of everything. And I used the rainbow as a storytelling device. So that was in November of 2019. And then the pandemic hit, and I was really, I did okay until about August, because it was like, it wasn't amazing, but it was a bit of a vacation because I had, I worked really hard as a burlesque performer. It's my job, it's my career. So, I hadn't had a vacation since 2009. So, yeah. That wasn't, every time I travel, you travel, it's for work. It's not, you might get like a couple days off to go to the beach, but you've got your suitcase with
Yeah.
It's not just like you in a bikini, it's you in a bikini and all of your costumes. Um, so around August, I just started to lose it. I was just crying. I just started crying because I would think about just how much I miss performing and making art and having projects to continually work on. We did a show at the Adelaide Fringe Festival that was then going to go to Edinburgh, and we had all these amazing opportunities. Glastonbury. It was just, there was a lot of really good things that were happening. And so I thought, when have I ever let other people's structure stop me from doing what I'm doing? So I decided to reboot Year in Rainbow again. And so it's a rainbow month, which is why I'm wearing rainbow. So every other month I wear one color every day. And then the alternate months I wear rainbow. And I've been making experimental videos. Let's say I started in September, October, November. So in September and October, I did mockumentaries. The first one is about me going to a menstrual slime therapist. I'll send it to you.
Thank you. Yes.
So a friend of mine, Mimi Silk, she does performance art, burlesque stuff. She is also really into slime, and she kept posting on her Instagram all those those sparkly slime stuff. The kids are really into it. So I thought, what if there was this character that was using slime as a healing device, and red is the color of the vulva chakra, and the root chakra, and so basically I directed her in this documentary kind of improv video where I go to her for menstrual slime healing, and it was so dumb and so fun to make. And then the second one is called a chakramentary. They're all called chakramentaries, but the second one is called Chakra Size, and I play a fictional character named Shoshana Chakra, and she teaches chakra size. So she's kind of like teaching it. She's like, oh, and then we did this, and then we did this, and so she has this. She's just an old lady that is trying to teach.
Where can we find these chakras?
These are all on my Patreon, which is www.yearinrainbow.com. And basically what happens for the first month, you get exclusive stuff if you become a patron, but then after that month, they're there for free and anyone can view them. So, so that's where you can see them. And the patrons get the behind the scenes stuff and, different photos. And I also have blogs from 2007 on there. So I feel like you're probably in there because I do go to Beehoff. And I think you are, because it was a purple month. It was when we were at that terrible casino. That was 2008.
Oh yeah.
Palms, that's right.
That was really bad.
That was so bad.
That was tough.
That was really tough. Yeah. There was a lot of wind and very tough. But anyways, that's where you can see me. And, it's interesting because I am considered adult because there is nudity. So you can't search for me on Patreon, which is, it's so interesting how they're like, yeah, we allow nudity, except for no one can find you, and it's.
I've experienced that as well, but I still am on there. I still have it. I've been on Patreon for 4 years. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very limiting, but it's somewhere to be, when there are no venues and, Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking about all your pussy escapades.
Yes.
It's been so good to see you and such a bright spot in my day. So thank you.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes. Okay, kids, now it's up to you to spread your legs and spread your love. Follow us, like us, share us, all the things. Do it all. Follow yearinrainbow.com and also Darlinda Just on Instagram, as long as we are still up there. And you can follow us here at I Look Down There, or go to lookdownthere.com. And you can follow me at Michelle Amore on Instagram as well. And finally, I am reminding you to grab a mirror and look down there. Thank you. See you next time.